Hi, welcome to RonPaul2010.com. With me today in the office, I've got Matt Collins from Nashville. I call him blogger extraordinaire. He's all over the internet, and you may have seen him. You may also not know one other thing about him. He's one of the people who took to heart the exhortation to go and take over or be a part of the Republican Party, and he went out and he ran for the chairmanship of the Davidson County Republican Party and actually tied 69 to 69 for this, and then in some sort of runoff became the vice chairman, but still is a very important part of the Republican Party in Davidson County and has 5 or 6 members on the executive committee. And I also have with me today John Warnoff, who is from Bowling Green, Kentucky, where I'm from, and is interested in our campaign. I'd like to start with Matt and ask him how he got involved in the Liberty Movement and maybe tell us a little bit about what he's been doing on the online.
Well, I had grown up in a conservative Republican household, and when I got to college I began to realize the Republican Party really did not represent my views of less government. And I floundered for a while and just became disengaged. And when your dad ran for president, he kind of got me fired up and realized that it's a matter of just being involved, showing up, going to things, meeting people, talking to people, and working to change the party from within. And you also, on January 27th of 2007, you gave a speech for your dad in Nashville and said that any group this size, you were speaking about 400 or 500 people, could dominate any local Republican Party. And I took that and ran with it. And the idea is that, you know, if people just get involved and they get active and they become part of the process, then you can start to see an effect on the outcome of the political discourse in this country.
John, what has gotten you involved or interested in the Liberty Movement?
Well, from a young age, I've always been interested in politics and in government, and I've been disillusioned and disheartened. I have seen many of the things that we're now experiencing in somewhat of an individual prophetic way for a number of years. And the disheartening or disillusionment that came with it was that nobody else seemed to really respond. Now it would appear that we are beginning to have some turnaround in that direction. I think your father obviously was a big influence with me, and through him my knowledge of you, and by synchronicity, coincidence, being in the same community, having a chance to connect with you directly. So it's encouraging to me now to see that the seeds of new beginning are very apparent, and that we can depend on people like you to help us implement those seeds into future growth for our country.
You had mentioned earlier the Tea Party movement and whether the Tea Party movement means something as far as changing the direction of our country. What do you think? Do you think the Tea Party movement is significant, and do you think they'll have an influence on elections?
Yes, I think the Tea Parties are, of course, reflective of the way this country began. The fact that some of the talking heads on television can't seem to understand that people like you and I and most of America really are smart enough to understand that history, and that the Tea Party does represent something more than just discontent or malcontents or people that want to create problems with rednecks, etc. Right. So the Tea Party, I think, is instrumental in that it's a resurgence, a remembrance, and a reintroduction to our heritage of the past.
I think you're right, and I think the amazing thing I saw at our Tea Party here locally is we had about 700 people show up, and Bowling Green's only a city of about 50,000. My comment at the time was it was a bigger group of people than I had seen at any political event in Warren County, and I've been to different Republican functions, I've seen famous speakers come to town, and it was the biggest event. And I think what we need to decide with the Tea Party movement is how do we go forward with the Tea Party movement and do something in a practical aspect to change the elections. But I think it is a movement that is brewing. I don't think it was orchestrated by the Republican Party. When I was out there, I know most of the Republican leaders in town. It was not the typical Republican leadership. And it also wasn't orchestrated by any network. Some people said, oh, this is just Fox Network doing this. It wasn't that at all. At least in Bowling Green it wasn't. Matt, tell us a little bit about some of the different things you do online, different areas or forums that you are involved with, and let us know something about what you're doing.
Well, I post regularly on RonPaulforums.com, otherwise known as Liberty Forest, and it is been called the Paul Hive, and essentially it's where, I don't know, I think we got 30 to 50,000 members on the thing that post regularly, and they exchange news stories, information, ideas, strategies, what's going on in different areas of the country. I'm also, of course, running your Facebook page for you, and I run your MySpace page and your Twitter account in an effort to keep everybody informed on kind of the inside scoop and what's going on with your exploratory committee.
All right. Well, how are we going to get 10,000 people to give $100 on August 20th?
Well, it's real simple. I tell my friends, they tell their friends, they tell their friends, and it just kind of snowballs on forward.
Well, I think particularly if there really have been 30 or 40,000 people involved with the Ron Paul Forum, some of it's getting them back out and active and interested. And obviously it was much bigger involvement at one time. But I think all of those people have communicated with the Ron Paul Forums, so if the Ron Paul Forums can get out and outreach to them. The other interesting thing about this movement is there's probably 50 different sort of Liberty websites out there. There's Liberty Maven, there's dailypaul.com. There's a lot of really great websites out there that have great content on them, but also are sort of forums for Ron Paul and sort of the Liberty movement for getting our message across.
I think the trick at this point is the meetups have kind of fallen by the wayside for the majority of the country because there's no centralized, active, cohesive campaign like what your dad was doing at the time to bring everybody together. And I think what we need to see is a reactivity within the meetup groups around the country, not only for your campaign, but for the campaign of others who are running on Liberty or limited government platforms.
Well, I think some of that is starting to start because we've seen some meetup groups starting to form in Kentucky that were the old Ron Paul meetup groups that are now Rand Paul meetup groups. So I think that's going to happen. And I think this thing will grow really big, but really the thing we have to do is get the internet chatter going again.
Absolutely.
And we have to build something. If we were able to raise $1 million in one day, what would happen is everybody would talk about it. Just like they did when my dad raised $6 million. Everybody talked about it. The national media talked about it. It becomes the story of the day. And I'm not positive of this, but I think it would set a record in the country for fundraising for a non-presidential candidate in one day. But anyway, I want to thank Matt for all his work and for coming up today, and thank John for coming by.
Thank you.
And come back and visit us at RandPaul2010.com.